This is Doyle Williams. This is November the 12th, 1988, and we're at O.D. Williams' house again to complete an interview that we started a couple of months ago. O.D., let me pick up and ask you a couple of questions that may cover some of the ground we covered before. Where were you and Norma married?
In Gene Autry, Oklahoma, formerly known as Berwyn. Actually, it was Berwyn at that time. A couple of 3 months later, it was changed to Gene Autry.
And after the war, you went to Trinidad, you said, and worked on an airstrip down there. What was that all about?
Well, there was an existing airstrip there built during World War II. It was of limited length, and our mission down there was to extend it 800 yards in order to make it suitable for B-17 bombers to fly from. These bombers were being used for aerial photography in South America, principally Brazil. There was a squadron of about 18 or 20 of these bombers, and 6 of them were on missions in South America all the time. And it was our function to keep that runway repaired and operational for these bombers.
Now, where were you when Jerry was born?
Well, I was at Gene Autry. Between periods of service, I was out for 8 or 9 months after World War II, and during that time Jerry was born. Then I re-entered the service in October after his birth in August.
Aside from the work you did in Trinidad, was there anything very significant before the start of the Korean War?
No. That was an ideal period of time. All we had to do was just normal, routine work that we were capable of doing. Everybody knew how to do, limited supervision, and we played a lot of golf, attended a lot of USO shows that came through. The highlight, as far as I'm concerned, was a trip that President Truman took to somewhere in South America. I guess it was 1947, and he stopped off there and spent the night, and we had to turn out an honor guard for him. And as far the only effect it had on me was that my car was, along with 25 or 30 others, were commandeered for use by the Truman Party and news group while they were there.
This was at Trinidad?
This was at Trinidad, on what was called Waller Field in Trinidad.
Well, what happened to get you over to Korea?
Well, when we returned from Trinidad, I was assigned to Fort Riley, Kansas, to an engineer battalion, and when the Korean episode started, it hadn't been going a week until we had orders to pack up and get over to South Korea, and we were given a date to be on the train and everything, which was only maybe 3 weeks from the time we were first notified. We were on the way.
1950?
1950, yeah. That's to say, the outfit was up now. I constituted the advance party for the battalion, and I was on the way in 2 weeks after we got notice, and I was there. I flew over, they came by boat, so I was there 3 weeks ahead of them, and it was my mission there was to get thoroughly oriented with what was going on in the battle zone in Korea, visited several engineer units, and selected a place for our unit to move into and bivouac for their first day or two there while they got their equipment off the ships.
Now, how long after is it that General MacArthur has made his invasion?
Was made what?
When did MacArthur make his invasion into Korea?
Oh, that would have been about maybe 6 weeks or 2 months. We went in at Pusan. Pusan never fell to the North Koreans, and there was a good group of infantrymen pushing the North Koreans back, and we were rebuilding roads and bridges behind them, and we got all the way up to, seems like it's a place called Yusan, about halfway from Pusan to Seoul, and that's when we got word that MacArthur had come in from Incheon, which was on the west side, and had liberated Seoul, and the North Koreans moved back rapidly, and we moved rapidly northward then, doing repair work all the way.
So you were there before MacArthur made his invasion?
Yes, oh yes. Not before MacArthur himself, who made a real dramatic appearance a time or two up there to bolster the strength of the defenders of Pusan.
Were you part of the groups that had been driven south?
No. The groups that had been driven south were those that were there originally, and the troops that were sent in as reinforcements from Japan. Those that came in from the States were never driven back until the battle about Christmas time, when the Chinese entered the fray, and that is, my battalion, was actually in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, when that started, and we fell back all the way almost to Pusan, destroying bridges and roads and railroad bridges as we fell back.
What was your rank at this time?
I went in as a major, and I was lieutenant colonel when I came out, and sometime in this period, I think it was February, I was promoted from major to lieutenant colonel.
Was that February in 51?
Yeah.
And you were awarded the Oak Leaf Cluster there, were you not?
Yes. I don't know, sometime in the spring of 51, we completed repair of a very big bridge across the Han River in Seoul, and they had General Van Fleet, who was the local commander at the time, come over, cut the ribbons, and in order to justify him coming over there, they had to give somebody some medals, so they chose to give me one. Did
you get into the conflict yourself? Were you in any battles over there?
No, I didn't. I heard shots, but I didn't fire any shots, and I don't think I was any closer than maybe 5 miles to the actual shooting.
What was General MacArthur's reputation?
I can't really say. We never thought much about General MacArthur. We were more concerned with the 8th Army commander, that is General Walker, until he was killed, and then General Ridgway, who replaced him. We were concerned with their attitudes, but as far as MacArthur was concerned, he was too far above us. He was equal to the president as far as we were concerned. We didn't think much about him.
What was the biggest thing you remember about that Korean conflict?
Well, I remember that withdrawal from Pyongyang to the southern part of the peninsula. That was conducted in the dead of winter, and not only was my battalion withdrawing, but so was everybody else. The roads was clogged with traffic all the way, and you moved a few miles, maybe you'd be blocked for hours, and you move a few miles more. And we had 8 bulldozers in this battalion, and they were all mounted on heavy trailers with big trucks, and it was just impossible to get them down the road on those trucks, so we took them off the trailers and moved them 162 miles on the ground. We wore the grousers off of the treads, moving them over these rocky roads to get them back to the southern part of the peninsula.
Well, after Korea, what happened to you?
What did happen to me? Yeah, I went to Fort Belvoir for a short period of schooling. Then I was assigned to command the 94th Engineer Battalion located at Fort Belvoir. And I was only there a few months, and something happened in Europe that they decided to do some beefing up of the stocks of supplies in the depots back in France. It was called COMZ, Communication Zone, the zone between the English Channel and the fighting forces in Germany. Had all these depots in there, and we were sent in, the 94th Engineer Battalion, was sent in to Chinon Engineer Depot to build roads, parking areas, storage hard stands, warehouses, and such things to receive tons and tons of engineer stocks, like 300 bulldozers, for instance, and many cranes, generators, graders, things like that.
Okay, can you kind of trace your military career from this point on until you retire?
Well, let me think about this now. After coming back from France, well, I was assigned to Fort Leonard Wood. There I commanded an engineer battalion in Fort Leonard Wood for a few months, and a situation developed where they needed a replacement commander for the 3rd Training Regiment, training recruits there in Fort Leonard Wood. So I moved over there, and I commanded that unit for a few months, and a bird colonel became available for assignment there. So I moved up to the post headquarters as Deputy G3, that is, Deputy Operations Chief, for that period. And I stayed there another few months, and then was assigned to Seattle, Washington, as senior advisor to a reserve brigade stationed in Washington with its headquarters in Fort Lawton, Washington. This brigade was commanded by a brigadier general, a civilian nominally, but a reserve brigadier general, and he had a tremendous staff there. And I was with them 2 years, and then at that point I retired.
And after you retired, you went to work for Boeing Military Company, did you not?
Yeah, Boeing Aircraft Company. I had a decision to make there. It had been my goal ever since I got out there to complete the service, retire, and go to the University of Omaha for one more year of schooling, at which time I would get a degree of some kind. But these fellows in this engineer brigade, most of them, worked for the Boeing Company, and they started dinging at me to go to work for them because they had tremendous need for experienced management types in the field. And so I said, all right, I'll try it out, and I filled out an application for Boeing and a short resume and give it to one of these guys, and he took it over to whoever he took it to in the Boeing Company. And 3 days later I got a letter from them offering me a job, $21,000 a year, plus whatever per diem was paid in the field, which amounted to about $10 a day. And I flipped a coin and decided to go with Boeing rather than to go to Omaha.
And where were you sent in the field for Boeing?
Well, initially to Great Falls, Montana, Malmstrom Air Force Base, for a few weeks. And they developed an urgent need for me at Rapid City, South Dakota, so I moved down there. And I worked there 2 years, and I don't know, some kind of contractual difficulty arose between Boeing and the Air Force, and I decided that was a good time to pull out, so I quit Boeing and went up to Camdenton, Missouri, and I stayed there about a year. And apparently Boeing got straightened out with the Air Force, because I began to get calls from Kennedy Space Station down in Florida, and from the boys up in Seattle, and that air base out of Kansas City there. I can't even recall the name of it now. But I knew all the people at this particular air base and had worked with them and for a couple of them. And the job was real good, with a real good increase in pay. So I decided I'd go with them rather than go to the Kennedy Space Center. So I worked there in Missouri for a year and a half, and then I went back to Rapid City, South Dakota for another year, and then I went over to Lewistown, Montana, for a few weeks, and it was cold and miserable. And Norma's sister had just lost a son in Vietnam, and Norma was concerned about her, and I wasn't too enthused about working anymore, so I elected to leave Boeing at that point in the fall of 68.
Is that when you came back to Oklahoma?
Yes, and I came back here, and we started building this house and developing this farm in late 68.
And what year did you officially retire from the Army?
1961.
Now, didn't they promote you to full colonel right before you retired?
Yes, they did, yeah.
O.D., this kind of goes back to when you and J.C. you said you went down to Fort Worth and Dallas area, and you lived in the transit camps down there, and that J.C. got a job pretty quick, but you stayed in one for probably 6 months, which indicated that, you did some fighting and stuff like that to get a little money, but you indicated that you didn't have a job at that time. Well, how did you live at that time? How did those people that was in this transit camp eat, and how'd you get along at that period of time?
Just like a military organization. They had a mess hall, and they had work details, and they paid us 75 cents a day, and we were no different from the CCCs or the Army, for that matter. They raised the flag every day, and we stood at attention while they raised it. And they lowered it every night, and we stood at attention while they lowered it. And I mean, this is a bunch of civilians doing it, too. It is do that or get out on your own and not have any job or any money or any place to stay or anything.
Well, any young man could come in and do that, or anybody?
Well, let's say anybody could do it. All you had to do was go to the proper place in Fort Worth and tell your story, and they'd send you out there. And J.C. and I both went there because there wasn't anything for us in Ardmore, and it was sort of an adventure anyway.
But you could come and go as you please. If you didn't...
Well, if you left, you might not get back in. And so it was wise to know what you're doing before you moved out.
What kind of work did you do for them in this camp?
By golly, I'll tell you, for the first few weeks I was there, I spent every day digging a ditch through an old rocky hill in which to lay a sewer line. I mean, this was hand shoveling, hand picking. And one day, one of the supervisors said, "We need somebody to work in the shoe shop." And I said, "I'm your man." I didn't know anything about working on shoes, but I learned real quick. And so I spent several months there, half soling, repairing shoes for these guys who would come in. And well, I guess I did that till I left there.
OD, I wanted to ask you, back when you were young and living in the house with Mom and Dad, you said that they were both pretty strict disciplinarians. Did you consider that they were high-tempered people?
No, I really didn't. They were not really easily provoked, but they were strict about insisting that if you had something to do, you do it. If it was wrong to do what you did, they told you about it real quick.
OD, you've been very successful in most everything you've ever tried. Were there any parts of your upbringing that you think contributed to that success?
Well, no, I really can't say anything like that. I was very fortunate to have gotten in the CCCs early and achieved success there, and worked with some fine people, both the supervisors and the other CC boys, and I know it just seemed to be an evolution that progressed all through my life.
OD, I just want to tell you how much we appreciate you making these tapes with us and giving us this bit of family history.
Well, all right, it's been a pleasure to do it, and I hope that younger people listen to it, appreciate it, and understand that everything that we have today wasn't always what it is now.
Thank you.